Hello, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the Africam Show. Brought to you by explore.org, of course. And my name is Russell Gerber, here to take you on a journey in the wild on the live cameras as we cruise around our various locations across the country, checking out what might be coming down for a drink at the various waterholes. And if the animals are not obliging, we have some wonderful highlights to show you, of course, from the last week or so. And as always, folks, we're here to chat and interact to all of you. So if you have any questions, anything on your mind with regard to the wildlife, the cameras, things you've seen, if you have any questions about anything Africa, please feel free to give us a shout, even if it's just to tell us where you're from. Always nice to know where our fans are watching from around the world. So welcome to all of you. We're kicking off the show today at a beautifully green Tembe with a couple of impala having an afternoon snack on a lot of fresh new green grass, of course, as we are well into our rainy season now. With some very good rains so far, as many of you will know, having watched the cameras consistently over the last 6 months or so. From a very dry winter season to a beautiful, beautiful looking bush all over the country, at all of our various cameras actually. And we've even been seeing some really good rainfall in some of the more arid regions of the country, up around the northwestern parts of South Africa, which is very much considered the driest parts of the country. Even there we've had significant rain, so good news for the animals all round. Always nice to see the impalas all putting on weight, as I'm sure many of us did over the festive season. If you're just joining us for the first time this year, welcome. Happy New Year to all of you. And as we look on at our hungry impalas, why don't we go over to Camphor's Dam and have a look at another species of antelope. Some of which also having a little snack in what is for them fairly unusual occurrence of being surrounded by beautiful lush green grass. Of course, Camphor's Dam in a much more arid region, very much the central parts of South Africa. And these are, of course, beautiful red hartebeest. As you can see, one in the right hand or bottom right hand side of your picture, a young lamb. From its size and coloration, I'd say likely born this season. They often come when the rains arrive as well. But always nice to see the hartebeest. And before, of course, we had the Camphor's Dam camera in. It was a species we very seldom saw. And the only other spot we would see them really was at Tau. Nice to have them hanging around with us though. And that one deciding this looks like a nice soft spot for me to lay down and eat as I do so. Another thing that I'm sure many of us did on holidays, eating while laying down. See, who says we're not like the animals? And why don't we check in on a couple of the cameras? Let's go over to Olifants River and see who we've got visiting on that side. You can see way on the other side of the river there, a couple of impala. And arriving on the scene from stage right, a troop of baboons heading towards the fig tree where those impalas are. As I said, a very good time for the animals now, especially the herbivores. There's so much food available, from fresh grass. A number of flowers will be coming through as well, and of course fruit on a number of the trees. And for the baboons, who are very much omnivorous, also a good time, as they can of course eat all the things that we just spoke about, but it's also a time, certainly at the beginning of the rainy season, where we see a lot of termites coming out of the ground. And that's a really good source of protein for the baboons and a free snack. And I must admit, I have in fact tried some termites, as it is something that many of the local communities around the reserves and in the older parts of Africa and wilder parts of Africa, that many people do actually eat. You can fry them, but a lot of people just eat them raw. I had it raw. It was not the tastiest thing I've ever had. But it's not the worst thing I've ever had either, I would say. However, I was told beforehand that it would taste like peanut butter. I can say that it did not taste like peanut butter. Lovely to see the baboons. And let's have a little hello to a couple of our friends out there. Ana Lucas from Portugal, welcome. Cheryl Loida, I think that's how you said. Hello Cheryl, welcome. OMG23 back again from Kalamazoo. I believe they make some very nice guitars in Kalamazoo. OMG, you can tell me about that, I'm sure. Sukman Lee, welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying it. Kathy Booth, who says she starts every day with Explore from Africa and all the webcams. That's lovely to hear, Kathy. I hope my voice is not going to ruin your day too much, but hopefully the animals will fix that for you. And Joyce Morin. Oh, to be in a warm climate. Well, yes, we are in the middle of summer now, and it's pretty warm in a lot of these locations, about 35 degrees Celsius in many of them in the afternoons. And Joyce also wants more zebras. We'll see what we can do, Joyce. I'll put out a couple of emails to my animal friends and see if we can get them to come around. Patricia LaRocque, welcome as well, and Cindy Drake says she loves to watch the baboons sleep at night. I do too, Cindy. It's very interesting to see that. Of course, they roost in the trees along the river in this particular location, and they will generally use the same roosting spot if there's food available. And as you can see, the impala are everywhere. Many of you will know that they are, of course, the most abundant antelope species in this part of Africa. A mixed feeder, as many of them are called. Being both grazers and browsers, although it's a pretty loose term. In many instances, just about every species that is termed a browser or a grazer will indeed graze or browse whatever is required if food is not available, but they do have preferences. And as we check in on all the cameras, why don't we head over to Rosie's and see what we got over there on that side. It looks like hiding in the shade, one of Africa's most photographed bird species. There's no doubt of that. And a lilac-breasted roller. Now, you can't really see the colors too well. You can just see a hint of that beautiful turquoise blue on the edge of the wing. A little white coloration above the eye line. The lilac breast, you can't really see in this particular visual as he hides out in the shade, but certainly one of our most beautiful bird species. And as I say, many safaris that I host, it's often a species that everybody wants to get a photograph of. They don't always cooperate very well, I will say that. And he's off now. You can hear a couple of other calls in the background. Sounds like a cisticola, a sitting cisticola, and a green spotted wood dove, but we've moved away now. Looks like we've gone back to olifants, the Afrikaans word for elephant, and there we have an elephant. As we're back at olifants, Anna Emerson, hi, welcome back. She asks, what is the lifespan of baboons? Well, it's hard to say. Oh, sorry, Anna, it's very hard to say exactly. They have records of baboons in captivity living around 27, all the way up to around 40 years old. But for the most part, in the wild, that would be significantly less. I would say the average lifespan of baboons in the wild would be probably around 20, perhaps to 25 if they're living in a forgiving environment. I think this elephant's just down a little ridge there. It looks almost like it's standing in this very deep grass, but it looks like there's just a little ridge and he's standing in right now, perhaps looking for some fruit that's dropped on the ground, or perhaps there's some very tasty grass at that particular location. And Stephanie Q asks, do baboons and vervet monkeys get along? Stephanie, they very much tolerate each other. Or should I say the baboons tolerate the monkeys as much as they need to. Look at this elephant. Yeah, might be shaking the tree. There we go. Yeah, difficult to tell from this angle, but looking at the markings and scars on the side of that tree, it could well be a marilla. Elephants are very, very fond of marilla fruit, so that's likely what he's checking out and looking for below the tree there. And you'll see them do that with their trunk and body and shake, or use all 5 to 6 tons of their body to shake the tree and get the fruits to drop on the ground like that. Really an animal with a huge amount of ingenuity when it comes to eating. But as I was saying, the baboons and vervets do get along as much as any of them the animals do really. They just don't really get in each other's way. The baboons will chase off the monkeys if they fear they're encroaching on a particularly tasty fruit tree, anything like that. Other than that, they're not too bothered. Why don't we go to our first highlight of the day? And this one, an interesting one, something a little unusual. We don't always capture on the cameras, but something we wanted to share with you. And of course, it's not too difficult to tell what kind of animal that is. And it is, of course, a snail, but more particularly known as a giant African snail. And it's from the genus Lysicatina, which is quite a large genus. And you see quite a few different giant African snails around. This one is actually not as giant as they can get. And actually occurs in many locations around the world now. They initially came from East Africa. Of course, we have a number of species down here in southern Africa as well. But not particularly fast moving, as you would imagine, when it comes to snails, and even more so big ones. But really nice to see them out and about. Just again, another bit of emphasis on how wet things are at the moment. But an interesting sighting nonetheless. And we're back live now, of course, at the beautiful Tau. And there you go, Joyce. Some more zebras arriving on the scene at Tau for you. Looks like they're going to come down for a drink now. And as we wait for them to arrive, let's quickly go to our next highlight, and then we'll come back and have a look at these zebras having a drink. And this one I wanted to show you so that we can get to our quiz question for the day. And this one, a really interesting little creature. And it actually has many different names depending on the location, depending on who you ask. But it's a little creature known in various places, like I said, as either camel spiders, wind scorpions, sun spiders. But I wanted to ask all of you, let's go with a little bit of a harder question today. What is this little creature? Is it a spider or is it a scorpion? As you can see, just investigating the net, likely looking for some small prey species, any gnats or small flies, ants, anything like that. They are, of course, mostly insectivorous, certainly carnivorous. But let me know your thoughts. Let's see how on the ball the team is today. This little creature, do you think it is a spider or a scorpion? As I say, a common name, camel spider, wind scorpion, or a sun spider. Often called a red Roman here in South Africa. And for me, easily one of the most creepy looking animals we have. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him towards the end of the show. And here you see the arrival of our zebras with a pristine bit of water in front of them, a towel. You can see that gorgeous reflection of the zebras in the water. And you see that other little herd behind waiting their turn. Perhaps checking out if there is in fact any danger to be concerned of. But what a lovely sight. How's that for a beautiful zebra sighting, Miss Joyce Moran? And as we watch them, Martha Jaggers says, loved visiting Tanzania and surrounding area in 2019. It was so amazing to see the animals in their natural habitat. So thankful for Explore. Love watching. Blessings from Martha in the Mississippi. Thank you, Martha. Yes, we are. It is an absolutely magical continent. So many special things around. And not really many things more beautiful than watching a herd of zebra. Now as we look on, you see those zebra all staring off in one direction to the right hand side of the picture. And not too long ago, this afternoon, our fantastic zoomies, who of course control our cameras, managed to capture a lioness who was hovering around the waterhole. So we'll keep an eye out in case she makes an appearance on the scene. Of course, the zebras that came down for a drink don't seem too anxious. But these zebra certainly looking a little nervous. And that behavior, you see all the ears straight forward, eyes all looking in one direction. Definitely suggesting they've perhaps spotted something that's bothering them. Now, of course, there is a lodge here, so it could be people. But as I say, we did manage to get a glimpse of a lioness here earlier. So we'll keep an eye on Tao. If anything does show up, I promise we'll be the first to inform you, if we can. And let's see who we've got. We've got a couple of answers to our quiz questions. Carol Dyer reckons a scorpion. Annie Wright Danielak reckons a spider. Suzanne Boshier, spider. Deborah Andrews and Therese Arthur, all spider. Have we got any scorpion? Oh, Carol Dyer is the only scorpion guest so far. And we've got a guess from Katiza Mod, who has given an answer that is 100% correct. But I'm not going to tell the rest of you. You'll have to wait till the end of the show. As I said to you, a little bit of a tricky question today. But thanks so much for taking part as we head over to Olifants, one of my favorite sightings in the bush, watching Africa's largest land mammal having a swim, doing their best impression of the ocean's largest mammal. It does look like 3 elephant bulls And the last one's decided he rather enjoys hanging out in the river. He's gone completely under. I just love how playful elephants are when they're in the water. It's such a special behavior. They always seem so excited, almost like there isn't a care in the world. That guy is really having a great time. Elephants are actually really good swimmers. Many people are not aware of that. They think that when the river is in high flood like this, that most of the elephants will not attempt to cross, but they absolutely will and do, and can swim quite well, using their trunk as a snorkel. And when they do go together, what is great to watch, and maybe you'll catch it on cameras in the next few weeks, maybe even in the next half an hour or so, but they almost always swim in a straight line, one behind the other, which is always really fun to watch. And he's gone completely under again, pretending he's a whale. Or maybe showing off to his brother or friend. Just his trunk sticking out. You can see the other two covering themselves in mud as well, giving themselves a good mud bath, which of course helps them to cool down even more and to stay cooler even longer. Kathy Barton says, I may not be able to identify a spider, but I know these are elephants. Kathy, that is spot on. Well played. Excellent. Naturalist ID. Thanks for joining us and watching on the show, everybody. I think we'll stay with this sighting. It's just such a lovely thing to watch, but I'm going to give you the answer to our question, of course. And as I say, thanks to all of you for taking part. And as I did mention, a little bit of a tricky question for you today. But the answer is somewhere in between. That little spider we were talking about earlier is neither a scorpion or a spider. It is actually known as a solifuge, which is in its own order, in fact. It is in the class of Arachnida, so it is in the same class as spiders and scorpions, but they are neither true scorpions nor true spiders. And they tend to live in very, very dry climates, and often areas where you find them are considered to be desert or semi-desert areas, but they are quite widespread, with over 1,000 different described species of them in 153 genera. It's a pretty common species, but as I say, for the most part we tend to find them in drier regions, certainly in South Africa, and they are very fond of the light, especially around a fire. So I've had a few incidences where they've crept up on us sitting around a campfire in the bush, And I'm not the greatest fan of the arachnid. I love all animals, but arachnids probably, if I had to be mean and say my least favorite order of animals, would definitely be the Arane order. And that solifuge, though not particularly dangerous to people, they're not particularly venomous. They do have very large chelicerae, which are the biting mandibles that can look quite fierce, and I'm told they can give a nasty bite, but they're very much more likely to run away. And the name Red Roman actually came from the fact that their legs, the two foremost legs, looked very much like the old style Roman helmets, and their color, particularly in the firelight, looks particularly red. So that is, I believe, how they got that slang or local urban name. But they really are pretty fast and pretty big too. You can get around, the biggest ones around 12 to sort of 15 centimeters. So pretty impressive in size, but although they look fearsome, they're really not particularly dangerous, as I said, unless you are a small insect, then they are very dangerous. And that's about all we have time for today, unfortunately, folks. We really had some good stuff on the cameras today, and as I said, nothing like watching a group of elephants having a swim, particularly in the river when it's so full. Late afternoon light falling on these gorgeous animals. Wish I had my camera. Get some beautiful shots of the ellies in the water. Well, folks, that's all we have time for on the show today. Thanks again for joining us, for taking part in the quiz, and we'll hope to see you all again next week. I will join the Africam Explore channel just after the show to answer some questions on the community page there. So if you do have anything that I might have missed out on, I'll do my best to answer it there for a short while after the show. But as always, thank you so much for joining us on the cameras. You never know what we're going to get. It's always wild and always live. But yeah, some really special stuff on the cameras today. I think this is definitely the place to be for now. But as I said, keep an eye on Tau. A little later, you never know if that lioness that we spotted earlier may come on down again. But for now, I'll have to love and leave you. We'll see you all again same time next week. Cheers for now.